Since 1975, the global rate of obesity has nearly tripled. For the vast majority of human history, starvation was our primary existential threat. Today, the math has inverted. Most of the world's population now lives in countries where being overweight or obese kills more people than being underweight. This shift is happening remarkably early in life. By 2019, the World Health Organization estimated that 38 million children under the age of 5 were already overweight or obese. When looking at older children and adolescents between ages 5 and 19, that number jumps to 340 million. Medically speaking, obesity is defined as a state of carrying excess adipose tissue, or body fat, to the point that it actively harms a person's health. We are facing a massive global health crisis. Yet the primary tool doctors use to measure and diagnose it in everyday practice relies on a surprisingly indirect metric. Directly measuring someone's exact fat mass is highly impractical for routine checkups, so the medical field uses a proxy, the body mass index, or BMI. This formula calculates a score by taking a person's weight in kilograms and dividing it by their height in meters squared. Based on this output, the World Health Organization sets strict thresholds. A score between 25 and 30 is classified as overweight, and hitting 30 or above crosses the line into obesity. But there is a major blind spot built into this math. These specific cutoffs were established using data drawn almost entirely from predominantly white Western populations. As researchers gather more diverse global evidence, they are finding that BMI does not universally predict risk. In many Asian populations, for example, people experience severe adverse health outcomes at much lower BMI levels than those Western-based cutoffs suggest. The formula also completely ignores body composition. Because muscle is significantly denser than fat, BMI frequently overestimates the amount of body fat in individuals with a highly muscular build. Relying entirely on a simple height-to-weight ratio leaves out crucial biological context. A single mathematical number cannot accurately capture the varying risk factors across different ethnicities, builds, and human bodies. When a body experiences chronic overnutrition, it has to store that excess energy, but exactly where those adipose tissues expand varies dramatically from person to person. Notice the distinct physiological differences between sexes on this diagram. Generally, females store more fat in subcutaneous tissues, just under the skin, specifically around the buttocks, thighs, and upper arms. Men are far more prone to storing fat deeper inside the abdomen and around the trunk. Because of these internal differences, doctors frequently use a much simpler geometric measurement to gauge health risks, the waist-to-hip ratio. Independent of how much a person actually weighs, severe danger zones emerge when this ratio exceeds 0.9 for women and 1.0 for men. Crossing these biological thresholds correlates strongly with specific metabolic disorders, namely type 2 diabetes and dyslipidemia, a harmful imbalance of cholesterol and triglycerides in the blood. The location of stored fat is an independent, critical predictor of disease, entirely separate from the overall degree of obesity a person might have. To see how these complex factors play out across a massive, diverse population, we can look at the United States. Through an ongoing record called the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, or NHANES, epidemiologists have decades of continuous data. This line graph maps the rapid acceleration of the U.S. obesity rate. Between 1976 and 1980, prevalence sat at 14.5%. Over the next 40 years, that number nearly tripled to reach 42.4%. But the national average hides massive demographic splits. Breaking down adult data from 2017 to 2018, we see non-Hispanic Black populations experiencing the highest prevalence at 49.6%. This is followed by Hispanic populations at 44.8%, white populations at 42.2%, and Asian populations at 17.4%.